All right, so today we're really diving deep. We're going to explore the work of Shaman John Rasmussen.
Okay. Yeah.
This guy is based in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Just the location alone adds this whole other layer to it, don't you think? Like this deep connection to nature and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hawaii has a very powerful energy.
Totally. So we're going off a couple of things he's put out there, a YouTube video, a blog post, that kind of stuff. What really grabbed me and why I wanted to do this deep dive is that he talks about how we are the biggest healers in our own lives.
Interesting.
It's a pretty powerful statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to dig into today. Like how much can we actually rely on external guidance from others, and how much of this healing and spiritual growth stuff really comes down to us buckling down and doing the work ourselves.
Yeah, it's a question a lot of people grapple with for sure. Like, where's that balance? How much can a healer or teacher actually do for you?
Yeah.
And, John Rasmussen, he doesn't completely dismiss that external guidance part. He seems to see these healers and teachers more as facilitators, which I like. It's almost like they're those guides, if you were going on a tough hike through the mountains or something.
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
They're there to point you in the right direction, give you some support along the way, maybe offer some expertise based on their own experience. But at the end of the day, you're the one who has to actually put one foot in front of the other and hike up that mountain.
Exactly. You can't just sit back and wait for someone to magically heal you.
No, no magic wand, unfortunately.
And he's pretty clear about that, right? John Rasmussen, I mean, he uses some pretty big terms too, and I have to admit, they're kind of intimidating at first glance.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, he talks about psychospiritual, psychological, even active mythic ritual, and then ties it all into physical life choices.
Okay, those are some hefty concepts for sure.
Right, like those are some big areas of life.
Definitely.
What do you make of all that?
Well, to me, it really shows just how holistic his view of healing is. It's not just about dealing with physical symptoms or whatever's on the surface.
Right.
It's really about deep inner transformation, working on multiple levels.
Yeah, that's true.
So when he says psycho-spiritual, maybe he's talking about things like meditation, connecting with nature, perhaps exploring your belief systems, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And then the psychological side could be traditional therapy, working through past traumas, anything that digs into those deep-seated emotional patterns.
See.
But then he throws in active mythic ritual, which I find really intriguing.
Yeah, me too.
That suggests using maybe symbolic actions and storytelling as a way to shift our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Interesting.
And then, of course, you've got the physical life choices,
Yeah.
how we nourish our bodies, how we move, the environment we choose to be in. All of those things play a part.
Yeah, okay, so it's like all these different pieces fitting together. It's not just about finding one thing to fix everything.
Yeah. Exactly. There's no magic bullet. It's really about a multifaceted approach.
Right, and that active mythic ritual idea is the one that really piqued my curiosity.
Mm.
I mean, do you have any examples from what you've seen of his work of what that actually looks like in practice?
So he doesn't go into a ton of detail in these particular sources.
Okay.
But I'm thinking it could involve things like creating your own personal ceremonies, or using visualization techniques, maybe working with archetypes like those universal characters and symbols from myths and stories as a way to gain some insight into our own personal challenges.
Right.
It's like he's emphasizing the power of our own minds to shape our reality.
Yeah, and that ties into the idea he talks about retraining your brain. He mentions using neuroplasticity exercises to do this.
Oh, absolutely. That's super fascinating stuff, right? The idea that we can actually change how our brains are structured and how they function just by making conscious choices.
Totally. Like that's a huge part of this whole idea that we're the ones in control of our healing.
Exactly. He gives an example, like if you notice yourself falling into negative thought patterns,
Uh-huh.
you can choose to replace those thoughts with positive affirmations or just beliefs that are more empowering. It's about rewiring those neural pathways in your brain.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking about taking an active role, putting in the effort consistently, and really making choices that are going to support our overall well-being.
Right.
But, it can't be all smooth sailing, can it? Like, what about setbacks? We all have those times when we slip back into old patterns. How does that fit in?
Well, that's where his idea of the medicine wheel comes into play.
Oh,
He
okay.
talks about how healing isn't this linear path where you just keep moving forward. It's more cyclical.
Mm.
So the medicine wheel, with its different directions, represents these various stages of growth and the challenges that come with each one.
Okay, so that's a helpful framework to think about it. Can you explain how the medicine wheel relates to those setbacks we were talking about?
Sure. So let's look at the south direction on the wheel. This is where we have to face our deepest fears, our emotional wounds, all those insecurities that hold us back.
Right.
We might make some progress, start to heal a bit, and move toward the north, which is all about clarity and letting go of that ego stuff.
Okay.
But if we haven't truly dealt with those underlying wounds from the south,
Yep.
it's really easy to get triggered back into that same old pattern.
Yeah, makes sense.
It can be an external event, like something happens in your life, or even just our own thoughts. We can sabotage ourselves without even realizing it.
I've been there.
Right. So it's not enough to just hit a certain point and be like, okay, I'm healed. We have to keep doing the work to stay in that healthier space.
So it's ongoing.
Yeah, it's a continuous process. And then the east direction on the wheel points out another tricky part.
Okay.
This is where we're supposed to develop our vision for our lives, figure out our purpose, and actively create the reality we want.
Right.
But what John Rasmussen says is that if we lose sight of that vision, if we stop actively working towards the life we want, it's easy to get pulled back into the West.
And what does the West represent?
The West is all about those ancestral patterns,
Hmm.
those limitations that have been passed down through generations. It's like we revert back to what's familiar, even if it's not healthy for us.
It's almost like we're constantly having to choose which direction we want to move in, like make that conscious choice over and over again.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what John Rasmussen is trying to tell us. It's about taking responsibility for our own healing, making choices that are truly aligned with our best selves, and having a lot of self-love and compassion along the way. We have to be kind to ourselves as we go through this process.
Man, that's a lot to take in. It's empowering, but it's also kind of daunting at the same time. It reminds me of this quote I heard once. Healing is not linear, it's a spiral. You know? Like we might circle back to those same challenges, but each time we do, we have a chance to learn and grow from them.
I love that. It's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
And I think that's really what John Rasmussen is getting at. We have this incredible power within us to heal, but it takes dedication.
Right.
It takes mindful choices and this commitment to our own well-being.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. I want to leave everyone with something to ponder as we wrap up here. Think about your own journey of healing and growth, however that looks for you. Where on that medicine wheel do you feel like you are right now?
Hmm.
And what are some steps you can take to keep moving forward, even when it gets tough? Keep exploring, keep growing, and never forget, you truly are the biggest healer in your own life.
Great advice.
Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time.